All right, moving back to 14. A lot of people think about carbon dating, that it does so much more. It only dates organic life, plant or animal, with the amount of carbon in you, carbon 14. And if you die at a certain time, it can tell how long you've been old in accordance with how much carbon 14 is in the atmosphere. It's limited. It hasn't reached the point of saturation, so the amounts are going to be off. But it can't show how much older you are than maybe 15,000 years, maybe 20. People want to put millions on it. No, that's uranium, lead, potassium, argon, or some longer age dating method, where the half-life of uranium is millions of years. I think 500 million, maybe. So, point 14, if carbon dating is so accurate, and it is not, it hasn't reached the point of saturation, and it can't go any further than 20,000 years at most, then how come it has been reported that some living snails and living trees, nevertheless, were recorded as being 2,500 and 10,000 years old? They're still alive. How is it that very young lava flows in the Uinkaret Plateau in western Grand Canyon are recorded as being millions of years older than the Cardenas Basalt, which is the oldest and most deeply buried strata? Is the carbon dating system reliable at all? No. It's got a limitation of 10,000, maybe 20,000 years. And it hasn't reached saturation. But then again, they did do uranium dating or some other long-age thing, and they found out that even though the bottom is supposed to be older than the top of certain areas of the Grand Canyon, it's the opposite. It's not reliable. Then I would ask the question, could not God have created various forms of matter and life with various starting points of radiation? Could not additional radiation have been added to the world after the flood, when the canopy of ice was removed from the Earth's atmosphere, thus allowing in external radiation from the sun and elsewhere, and throwing off estimates of age using such a dating system? Because with the excitement of the external radiation coming from outside the Earth's atmosphere, when that radiation, that canopy of ice was removed in the worldwide flood, that was the worldwide flood material, part of it, and part of it was in subterranean canyons, subterranean compartments below the surface of the Earth. So all this would throw it far off. Point 15. If man is just another species in the chain of evolution, then why can't they simply evolve as they have been doing for thousands of years, killing one another, slaughtering and eating animals at will? So why is that? That's not very productive. Find me a species. I said that to a guy in a swimming pool because he didn't believe in God or the Bible. I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if all of a sudden everybody, the whole planet alive today, woke up and decided and acted like others were better than themselves, and they reached out to others in a self-sacrificial manner with their resources, their life, their time, their money. Now, you don't have to go and die because of that. How about giving a few bucks? How about sharing? How about a nice word? How about taking a guy to lunch? How about buying a gift? Or going next door to the neighbor's house whom you're estranged from and mow the lawn for him? Or do something else. Maybe he didn't have a tool. Give him a tool. Just put it on his door. All of a sudden, you're doing things, and he may not, he's going to respond too, because if everybody does that, those that are being benefited are thankful, and then they turn around and pass it on to somebody else. The world would change immediately. Why can't man do that? Most people aren't going to destroy their temporal lives in self-sacrificial actions towards one another, in self-sacrificial love, like God's one only Son did for us. Most people will benefit because the other guy might came back and the wife cooked a whole meal for them, or bought groceries, or whatever, saw to it that your needs were satisfied, and especially maybe you're having a little time, a hard time, everybody's looking out for everybody else, regardless of race, religion, or creed. Of course, then when everybody does that, they might start looking up to God and His one and only Son. And that's what we're going to have. I talked to this guy. I said, there's a book about that. He swam in the next lane to me. And he says, what's that book? Well, I said, the book, I've learned a lot of books about that. I said to them, before I said the word Bible, I said, this book that I've been reading, as opposed to all the other books, have no errors in them, predict the future perfectly, and make so much sense, no inconsistencies whatsoever, that I'm going to go with it until something better comes along. He goes, what is that book? The Bible. Okay, conversation over. He got up and left. I don't know if he'll ever talk to me again, but I snuck it in. At your own self-sacrifice, you're giving him the gospel. That's kind of what I did. But he didn't reciprocate, except with estrangement. Perhaps he'll talk to me again. So William P. Hoare states in the New American, 1992, Evolution as Religion. The Guardian Weekly, in discussing Dr. Eldredge's model, put it this way in 1978. In the last decade, however, geologists have found rock layers of all divisions of the last 500 million years, and no transitional forms were contained in them. There are even intriguing suspicions, expressed by some prominent evolutionists, that Jesuit philosopher and paleontologist Teilhard de Chardin was culpably involved in a long-standing Piltdown Man hoax, which is a big hoax. Look that up. I copied an article on that, what a hoax it really was. Johnson recounts the supposed ancestor of Homo sapiens found under Piltdown Commons in Sussex, England, during 1908 to 1915, and not exposed as a hoax until 1953. The pressure to find confirmation of a missing link was so great that it led to one spectacular fraud, Piltdown Man, which British museum officials jealously protected. So they knew it, but they attracted attention, and from unfriendly inspection. You're not allowed to look at it, allowing it to perform 40 years of useful service in molding public opinion. And using a famous metaphor by British astronomer Fred Hoyle, the author observes that the chance that a living organism would emerge from a prebiotic soup is about as likely as a tornado sweeping through a junkyard might assemble a Boeing 747 from the materials therein. Chance assembly, Johnson elucidates, is the way a naturalist says miracle. Well, if you think that's chance is available, why not the most logical thing, a miraculous, supernatural, intelligent designer? Indeed, Nobel Prize biochemist Francis Crick stated in his book, Life Itself, an honest man armed with all the knowledge available to us now could only state that in some sense the origin of life appears at the moment to be almost a miracle. Almost. So many of the conditions which would have had to have been satisfied to get it going. So what has scientist Crick come up with as a possible explanation? Well, he advances a theory model. It's a model. It can't be a theory. Theories are observable, reportable, and falsifiable. A model is just some guesswork based on some investigations in science, but you may have to make some presumptions and then see how it plausibly fits. Worldwide flood fits everything, but they don't try to refute it. He advances a theory or model, which has also been raised as a possibility by the aforementioned astronomer Fred Hoyle and his colleague Chandra Wickramasinghe, that of directed panspermia from extraterrestrial civilization. There you go. Reach way deep down in the back of your drawer. Yeah, it came from Mars. Well, you better go back further than that. We haven't found life on Mars yet. We think we had, and then it didn't pass. This passes for science, while those who believe in a creator are mocked. Henry Morris states, the Lord Jesus Christ clearly affirmed the truth of recent creation. Jesus Christ was the creator of all things. Note John 1:1, 3 to 3:10, Colossians 1:16, Ephesians 3:9, Hebrews 1:2 and 10. Christ says, there have been people on the earth since the very beginning of the world, and he ought to know, for he was there. For example, when the Pharisees asked him about marriage and divorce, he replied that from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female. Wow. Beginning. Big bang. There's male and female. They're marrying. He did not say that God made the first man and woman 15 billion years after the beginning of the creation, but right from the beginning of the creation. In fact, the whole creation had been prepared for them. Even the stars had been made to serve them for signs and for seasons. Genesis 1:14 and 16. Even today we see that, but the arrangement is askew, perhaps because of the fall. God did all kinds of things to remind us that we're created, and it goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden, but there's something amiss. That's our sin nature. We have to use his word, believe in his Son, so that we can participate in the new heavens and the new earth without sin. And man was given dominion over all the earth. And such a stewardship responsibility would be an anachronism if animals and plants had already been living and dying for many millions of years, many even becoming extinct. Hey, go manage that's it. Never mind that. They're extinct. Go manage the dinosaur. They're gone. For long ages before they were placed under some kind of human dominion. It's bizarre, the thinking. The more bizarre it gets, the more they love it, the evolutionists, because they can distance themselves from God. God permits that for a season. What conceivable purpose could God have had in interposing 1 billion years of suffering and death in the animal kingdom prior to implementing his great plan of salvation for lost men and women? And what purpose to our creation reflect the lost condition of man before Adam and Eve were even created, much less lost? He is neither cruel nor capricious, and would never be guilty of such a pointless sadism. Beginning with Abel, the first prophet of God, according to Jesus in Luke 11:51, God sent prophet after prophet to transmit his word to men. As we have the Bible. More often than not, their message was opposed, even to the point of bloodshed, and this also has been going on from the beginning of Jesus himself, referred to the blood of all the prophets, which was shed from the foundation of the world. Jesus quoted them. That is, prophets have been preaching and dying since the very foundation of the world, not starting 5 billion years later. This opposition to God's plan has been instigated by Satan himself. Jesus called Satan a liar and the father of it, as well as a murderer from the beginning. John 8:44, he had not only deceived Eve with his humanistic philosophy, ye shall be as gods, but also had caused Cain to murder God's first prophet. This too was at the beginning, not 5 billion years after the beginning of, for even if animals had been dying for 1 billion years before this, as theistic evolutionists claim, their deaths could not be called murders. John also 1 John 3:8, the devil sinneth from the beginning. Where was he before that? There is yet coming a time of God's great wrath on this unbelieving world. Again, it was Jesus who said, in those days shall be affliction, such as was not since the beginning of the creation which God created unto this time. Mark 13:19. The clear premise of this prophecy by Christ was that there had indeed been tribulation and affliction since the beginning of the creation which God created, and therefore people had been on the earth all during that time, but that the coming period of great tribulation would still be worse. Okay, I think we can stop there. Finish off next time.